Hello, hello, I'm back. I don't know if anybody saw me before, but anyway, I was on for a few minutes. Sarah and I were having a little miscommunication, but she should be hopping on very shortly. And once she hops on, then we can connect and you guys will get to hear all about her journey. So I am going to, there we go. She should be on any moment. Yeah.
Hey,
Yay! It
hi.
worked. So I'm going to give kudos to Sarah, who literally learned that this could be done like this, like 2 seconds ago.
I haven't done it this way. It's so fun.
Yeah, and I'm so impressed that you were like willing to take the risk. So see, everybody in this, whoever ends up listening to this, a few, whether now or in a rewind, just know that Sarah literally learned something brand new 30 seconds ago and was able to do it because she's just got this great mindset.
Thank you for that. And thank you for having me on. I've been looking forward to this.
Yes, I was looking forward to speaking with you because, of course, I know for myself, there's been a lot of, and I feel for a lot of people, a lot of different money beliefs and money things that we work through and all the different things. And so I was really excited because I also think that money is all about relationships and really it is a relationship. And I think that it's misunderstood, a misunderstood relationship for most people. And it's also a part of self-care. So I love, like, for me, this is like, I just think it's such a great topic that people don't always think about. So yeah.
I think you're right. And I love how you say it's a relationship because it is very much
Yeah.
a relationship with yourself. And so many times I have found in my entire career, over 30 years in the business, that so many times people are really fearful of money and they come from a place of scarcity and being stuck. And my goal is to get them to a place of self-love by being curious and taking steps along the way and getting financial empowerment because
Yeah.
there's so many few things you can control in your life, but how the relationship you have with money is one of those few things I believe you can.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. And I think it's ever evolving. I think there's stages and comfort levels and all kinds of things that play into it that I I don't think until you start to really explore that relationship you even know exists. And I think that, so for me, I'm going to say I'm still new in my relationship. It's like we're dating. We're not deep in yet. But so I'm really curious and love to hear a little bit about your story. So I'd love for you to just share a little bit about you, who you are, where you've been, a little bit of your journey, and we'll take it from there, see where we go.
Yeah, so I've been in the industry ever since I graduated from Yale. I've been in different roles of helping people just basically solve problems. I don't think there's a license or degree I haven't gotten in the financial industry. I love learning, and I'm very passionate about growing. I mean, one of the things you and I talked about in your shift with gays is how, we're all given different opportunities to pivot. And so many times we can get stuck in our routine. And I know I certainly have done that at different points in my life. And I think the story that I shared with you through that one article was one where I was
Yeah.
on a business trip in New York City on Wall Street, and I was on a due diligence meeting, and as I went to cross the street there at the stoplight, I'd waited until it said to walk, and I slowly walked. Well, what I didn't realize was there was this car that was coming around the corner, and he literally ran right into me. And my body, I was like a rag doll flying through the air. When I landed, I looked down and realized, wow, part of my leg had been ripped off. Pelvis was in over 40 pieces. I had catastrophic, life-threatening problems at the time.
Injuries.
Orthopedic
Yeah.
problems. Well, at the time, I looked down and thought I was like, I'm a mother of two sets of twins. And at that moment, my younger set had just turned 2 years old. So I had four children under the age of 5, and I was the breadwinner. And there I was in a pool of blood fighting for my life.
Oh my goodness.
And that was such a huge pivot. Like it was such a, I mean, it was thrown upon me, right? There was no way, I had no idea this guy was, making a lot of bad decisions that day. One of them was hitting me over. It was a hit and run. And that was followed by years of, I was disabled for a good 3-year period of time. And through that journey, wow, I learned so much. But at that moment when I was on the ground and injured, I was with 2 other people and they were not as hurt as I was. And I had so much relief that they were okay. And in a weird way, I felt thankful that it was me and not them, because wow, I could handle it. And I just thought, you know what, this is going to be an opportunity for me to show my kids what it's like to navigate. And that kind of helped shift me on a different path, because up until that point, I had been in a cycle. And then through that recovery of some pretty crazy wow, surgeries and systematically. So what happens is your mind goes to the part of your body that is hurting the worst. And for me, it was my pelvis, because you can't do anything. So I went into emergency ICU for about a month. And my driving force was my kids. And I kept thinking, like, I wanted to get out of the hospital and go home. And my first victory was I was able to get into the hospital for special surgery and have this amazing doctor, Dr. Healthet, who put together my pelvis. And that gave me hope, because then that pain kind of subsided. And then, wow, realized like other things that weren't working so well.
I have to just stop you for 1 second, because I'm sitting here like in awe. I have the chills and I'm in awe, and I'm thinking like that at that moment, that when all of that upon impact, let's say, and that moment, right, where you're, flying through the air and you land and you're looking around, and the fact that, first of all, that you're coherent, like that you recall this and you remember it and you were awake through the whole thing, just is like, oh my gosh. And then how you immediately turned it, like immediately, like it didn't take you a month to figure, all right, I'm going to stop feeling like I'm a victim, and I'm going to, like, you immediately, I know you probably had moments, but I'm saying like you immediately were able to pivot, like, and be like, wow, this is going to be an incredible journey, and I'm going to rally, and I'm going to, change and grow. It's incredible. Okay, go ahead. Keep going about your surgeries. Go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted. I just needed to say that.
I love the way you frame that, but I think that does a good job of framing it, because it began my journey to realize how much control I have. So early on, the doctor said, you wouldn't be able to probably walk again. And that was hard, because I'm a former rower at Yale and rode for the national team. And I was an avid runner and biker and skier. And when they told me that, I just thought, well, you don't know me, you don't know me, and I'm going to figure this out, and
yeah.
And it proceeded then for 3 years. I had 9 surgeries to kind of systematically rebuild the parts that had been hurt.
Wow.
And they told me after 3 years that I would 100% need both hips replaced. And after 3 years, and I think I was out walking, and I fell down and skidded my knees, and I was so mad that I wasn't running. I was there walking, and I couldn't even walk well. And so I got up and I started running, and I just said, you know what? They told me 3 years I'd need new hips anyways. I might as well get some good use out of these babies. And so I started running.
First of all, what a miracle. I mean, like, right? God, that's like the whole miracle of being, like, first of all, being in Manhattan, the surgery, special what is the hospital for special surgeries, like that's like an incredible, right? I mean, to have access to that you normally wouldn't. And then, like you said, to be like, you know what, you told me I was going to need these anyway. I'm just going to run. You know what? I mean, I've got these two good hips. I'm going. I'm going to go. And when I don't need them anymore, when they don't work anymore, they're just going to give me new ones anyway, right? So
right. I figured I'm on borrowed time.
yeah.
And
Wow.
so what that did was it gave me the confidence to start doing some other things. And I started by swimming, and I had never really swam before. And I did these long distance swims, and I was kind of surprised because I was able to do it, and I was able to be relevant. Like I did well in my age group. So suddenly I was like, okay, I can do this. And then it was then I started taking up biking. And the same thing, like I did the ride around Mount Rainier, which is 154 miles, 10,000 vertical in one day. And I did really well. I was the second fastest female on the whole race. And at that point I thought, like, I can really, like, I need to unleash this. And so I met a person who said, well, you should do triathlons. And I was like, oh, I can't do triathlons. I can't run. You know, I got these injuries, and my identity was part of being, you know, hurt. And then so once he said, well, no one said you had to run on the running part. You can actually walk. And I thought, you know, you're right. I have no excuse not to do triathlon. So then I set out to systematically train and did a couple Ironman.
Wow. So, I mean, so your competitive nature in general, like just like allowed you to move through this whole injury with almost this like spirit of like, okay, yep. Every time a doctor said you couldn't, you were like, okay, I can. You're like a little engine. I think I can. And you just kept going. Wow. That's incredible.
Well, that's what's so interesting now is because years later, a lot of those doctors have circled back and they want to see like how, because I haven't had any hip replacements. I still have all my original hardware. You can see, it's pretty cool when on my x-ray, because there's like all these cool chains they put in there to help hold it together. So it certainly is a really interesting science project. But when I talk to them about, my journey, every single doctor says, you know, people don't realize how much power they have in the way they heal and the way they recover. And so they're like, yeah, we help put your bones back together, but just the fact of being able to apply yourself, lean in and take steps, one step after the other. And I guess that's the part of, I want my story to help, other women that, you and I both want to positively impact, is that we all have things that happen in our life, and how we respond to it is really the most important thing of helping us pivot and to pivot to a different path. And that's really when I share my story to clients or venues about that particular part, it's so much tied to like how we live our life and how we want to be impactful. And it's helped in me being, a financial advisor and helping people, a wealth manager, helping people live their best life.
And that, I mean, I feel like the parallel, like how you're connecting the two seems so far, right? Like, financial advisor, and then overcoming like a life altering event and coming through, right? As a beautiful walking miracle at this point, right? That you're come together, and how you're kind of interweaving those two really, I would say, what I would have normally thought were really far apart on the spectrum of life, right? And how they're getting weaved together. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about, like, really, I'm really fascinated actually how you would how that comes together when you're working with your clients, and when you're working, and especially with finances, especially with money, and how I know it's journaling is in there, so because that's in your title, right? So all of that, how you're incorporating all of this beautiful learning that you did through a very traumatic event, right? And how that has transformed how you do business, I should say, right?
Right, right. Well, there's so much in financial planning. It's important to have a game plan. Like if you don't have goals and things you want to accomplish, just like if you're going on a journey, a trip, if you don't have a kind of a guide, you're going to end up somewhere else. So certainly downside protection is an important thing. Helping people understand the importance of being proactive in their decisions, things like emergency funds. Insurance serves a purpose, insuring for the big hits, not the little hits are
Yeah.
really, really important. Um, Things like disability income is something that, helps to replace income in the event of illness or disability. So those are certainly important things. But one thing that people don't realize is when you go through a catastrophic event, so many times you think like, oh, I'm going to need 3 months worth of living expenses. But what you don't realize is your overall expenses can, like in my case, be so much more. So
Yeah.
suddenly you become the special needs person. So in my family, I had been the main provider and caregiver. And so with me out of it, I had to hire people to help me go to medical appointments and help me take care of my kids. And I had a partner at the time that wasn't equipped to handle all that kind of stress and changes. So we went through so much that we had planned for. And being in the business, we had a pretty good financial house. Thankfully, I didn't end up losing the house. Most people go through bankruptcy because of something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
They have to go through savings and sell what they have.
Yeah.
But financial planning is so much, I believe, about self-respect and realizing you're worthy. Women in particular, we tend to prioritize everyone else but ourselves. And we tend to think like, oh, I'm going to take care of Jimmy. Jimmy's going to get a new pair of shoes and I'll get something for me later. And there'll be more time. And what sometimes I think people forget is just time value of money and time on your side. It doesn't take a lot. I've coached so many people out of just siphoning off a certain amount of money per day and putting it towards their own options, whether that's a comfortable retirement, whether it's a dream vacation, whether it's a new house, but it's systematically taking your space and worthiness and saying, you know what? I'm worth it. And that proactive actions can trickle
Yeah.
to more and more things.
So it's interesting. So what would be, I love that little bit of nuggets, right? So it's not like the big investments and yes, those are all wonderful, but it's really those small little everyday events that you can make or changes that you can make in order to get toward a goal, a small goal or a small plan, right? Is what you're kind of saying. And I'm wondering, when you come up against people, like what's something that you hear often when you start to tell people to do this step, right? Or what resistance? Because I'm thinking there's going to be resistance there, right? They're not going to believe you. So.
Well, I think so many times we get caught up in emotions. I think there's a lot of urges that we, particularly as women, I think there's a lot of like cellular memory with being gatherers and, impulse control. Some people have a sale sign. It just means like, oh, I got to stock up. Well, stock up, they may not even need that. All it is stocking up on stuff that, just because it's a good buy, what does it really do if it's sitting in your closet or,
Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting. You say that my sister, this is a little bit of an aside. My sister was saying that she realized that during COVID, she didn't even realize that the scarcity mindset that she was in, that she was buying like canned goods and grocery. Like every time she went to the store, she was buying more than she needed and like large quantities. And like just the other day, she was like, why do I have all this stuff? Like, I don't need it. Like what? And she started giving it away. She like realized that she was in this weird mindset that was kind of like being projected, right? Like, oh, you might not get to the store and you might not. So it's kind of the same mindset, right? That people have with money, that there's this like, oh, it's a sale. I got to get it now or I'll never get it. Or I've got to get 10 of them because it's on sale and it's a good buy. When right, you don't need it. So,
Right. So many times we're kind of looking for a payoff, a serotonin hit, a
yeah.
dopamine hit. And so one easy exercise is, in order to satisfy that before you can get something new, you have to look and go shopping in your closet and give away 3 things. Have you ever tried that?
No.
It works. It totally works.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
Oh, I love that.
you go through the same process where you're sizing it up and you're looking for the best, what is the best choice? Probably a lot of the same things that people will go through in going through a shopping experience. So if you are someone with impulse shopping issues, I highly recommend. That's like an old school easy hack to
Wow.
help to clear out some of that stuff that's not needed, because your things and your life should really serve you. And if you're spending money on something that takes a lot of money to maintain, and something like an expensive car that you barely use, and you're spending money to keep it up, the insurance, the maintenance,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
payments on it,
Mhm.
that's a lot of life energy.
Yeah, it is. I actually, now that you're saying it, that's exactly what it is, right? It's just energy that you're like spending on something that you're barely enjoying. And so you want to enjoy, if you're going to do it, you want to be able to really enjoy it, right? I mean, like, not just have a car sitting there, right? Or an event, or a surplus of canned goods, or shirt or shoes or whatever, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Right. And so, and having, applying, I also think, I think you and I talked about, I'm big on vision boards to help people kind of list out like what is truly important. I'd say for quite a few women that I work with, I call it bag lady syndromes. Like they're afraid, like what if all of a sudden something happens and I'm a bag lady, right? And many times these women have a lot of money in the bank account. And so it's helping them to, in that case, to help them, certainly doing financial projections and looking at, okay, worst case scenario,
Yeah.
how would this play out historically? If 2008 happened, if suddenly the tech bubble of 2000 happened, how would this play out? And looking at how the numbers flow. But in those cases, so many times, helping them take steps to spend the money in a nutritious way. Like today, I spoke with a woman about unleashing some of her money to redo her kitchen. She plans on staying in that house for the rest of her life. She's done very well. She has never taken any money out, and so in her case, her money's and so also it's not just taking and reducing expenses to save it. It's also about having your savings spent in a way that honors you and helps you live a healthy life.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because I think sometimes we hear all about saving it. Like you said, you got to have 3 months, in case of an emergency, you should have this for this, you should have like all of these little things, but you don't really ever hear about like, the spending in alignment so that you receive joy. It's not just about saving, it's also about spending. And I think the scarcity comes in with the spending, right? We all get nervous about spending because we're afraid there's not going to be more behind it, right? Like if
Right.
there's not going to be any more. And right, I think, I know that's one of my big things. Like I know I'm always like, oh, I can't believe how expensive that is. And, and then I'm like, kids, it's all right. You're making, there's always more where that came from. There's always more, but it is a harder thing to kind of swallow,
Yeah, I'm thinking of one of my clients who, when she first came to me, she actually came in because of an article I wrote on fear and money, and she said, "You were talking to me."
Yeah.
And I was so thankful that it because I always like to create content, and if I can just positively impact one person, then for me,
Yeah.
it feeds my soul. So when she came in and needed some help, she had so much invested in her house. She'd gone through a challenging divorce, and she had this huge, beautiful house, and she was very house proud. and she was also going poor maintaining this huge house, from, you know, yard care to utilities. And at that first meeting, I said, I'm sorry, you know, we went through her expenses and her assets. And I said, you need to sell your house. And she like literally took a bullet, right? Oh, it hit me. And I thought, oh my gosh, like that was hard, but it was the truth. It was the truth. And that was my recommendation. And, you know what? She got it. In fact, shortly thereafter, she sold that house. She got into a more manageable house. She still had kids at home at the time, so she was trying to hold on to it for them. The kids were thrilled to be in a new place. It was part of her new life. And she has so much more discretionary income that now she sends me messages. She's at cool yoga retreats with her kids, and she goes skiing, you know, because she can now afford to do that. She's not in this huge house with all this maintenance and expense. So that's where, you know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a huge house and maintenance. If that's your jam, right? But if it's keeping you from doing the things you really want to do and spending time with your loved ones, then maybe there's some opportunity to reconfigure it.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I think that's the piece that's also interesting about money is it is a relationship because it's very individual to each person, right? So what makes me happy, maybe, you know, like I always, like I'm switching the story, but one of the lines I used to say is like, well, I'd rather take more vacations and live in a smaller house, you know, like, because I had to choose. At that point I had to choose. There's a little bit of stuff in there, but that was how I would want to spend my money. If I had extra money, I would want to go travel, right? Whereas somebody else who had some extra money might want to go to spa days or, you know, I don't know, buy a hot tub or something, you know what I mean? Like there's just different ways. Everybody has their own way of how they want to spend their money. And so it's really is personal in terms of what brings each person joy, right? So I think that's part of it as well, because it's not so clean cut, right? It's not like, well, if you have extra $100, you should do this. No, right? Because it's personal to each person. So yeah. And now, how did journaling come into this whole thing? Like with your needs, like
yeah. Love Money Journal is my financial empowerment handle, and that's where I will share advice and exercises. I have a downloadable book of helping people to get clear on their venue. It's a way, in my practice, you know, we have a group of families and multi-generation, and there's only so many people that we can impact. And so through Love Money Journal is the venue that I've reached out in social media, and it's been really fabulous and fun to share it, hopefully in bite-sized nuggets, because so much of what I'll do is wealth management. We help people mitigate taxes, you know, because helping people grow things efficiently, you can accumulate more. I also help to problem solve with unlawful litigation and protecting assets through divorce. And then helping people give massively through charitable donations. So, you know, it's really about helping people leave a legacy, live their best life. But your money should serve you, and it shouldn't be holed up. And through Love Money Journal, I love integrity. Joy is kind of that personal value.
Oh, yeah. 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 You're just bringing joy to the world, right?
Yeah. And then I have a book that's coming out. It will be coming out April 1st.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to be doing some online webinars on some of the different exercises. I'm really big. I mean, through the years, I've seen so many ordinary people live extraordinary lives by just taking a pivot and taking steps. And it's helping to make things so simple that they can take the action and take time for themselves. So and going back to kind of as we started, I believe like getting from a place of being stuck to a place you absolutely love is being willing to be curious and try new things and take steps, because it's just little steps can change your trajectory. And imagine if we had a spotlight that was looking on the wall. You remember those old spotlights?
Yeah.
Projector?
Yep.
If you just changed it a little bit, like just a little angled it, what would happen to the spotlight? It would totally change, right? It would change. And that's exactly what people can do with their financial lives. You know, and I believe with anything, like if you choose to get out of the rut and change something to build new habits that are more supportive of the person you want to be and the life you want to be, it's never too late. It's never too late, and no change is ever too little.
Yeah. And I think that's really important. Like what you said in the beginning, you gave us a nice little nugget of, information where you said that if you just do a little bit each day, and that would and put it into some kind of fun, whether it's $1, $2, $5, $10, $100, whatever you can afford. Right. And then do that. Do you have any other little nuggets? Like if you're thinking about that person right now, like you're talking about that person who's feeling like they're stuck financially, they're stuck, and they're really overwhelmed by the fact that they're just making their bills, or they're just surviving, or maybe not just surviving, like, kind of in that space. What would be like maybe 1 or 2 pieces of advice you could give them just to help them like step over that hump, just to get over the hump?
I'm going to give you 2 ideas. They're really very different. One is more getting clear about your values and who you are. And one is, if this was your last day, giving some thought to what would your obituary say? What is that reflective of the life you're proud to have led? That'd be one, right? That's a hard one because it's kind of morbid, but it's really revealing. I mean, is what people would say about you, is that truly what you want to be known for? And if it's not, why aren't you living that life now, right? So that's one. The other one is more of an easy financial hack, which if you have debt that you want to conquer, an easy thing is you have to get real about it. So you have to understand how much you owe and then what the interest rate is on it. And I like laying it out so then you calculate the interest each year that the banker charges you for the privilege of owing that debt. Okay, so you have a spreadsheet. Then you post it. You post it in a personal place, like your room or your bedroom, someplace that you want. And if your goal is to pay it off, you post it, and then once every 2 weeks, once every month, you update those numbers. You will be amazed at how quickly you will pay off the highest interest first and eliminate it so much faster. Your mind will subconsciously help you, it will become more of a need to prioritize. And so instead of you getting another black sweater when you have 5 in the closet, maybe the $100 you paid towards a black sweater, maybe you put it towards that credit card bill that's charging you 24%.
Yeah, I love that because it's so visual, right? I mean, it's like, and I imagine like putting it up like in my mirror, like I'm getting dressed in the morning, and then at night before I go to sleep or something. But because I'm thinking that the reason sometimes we forget that is we want that, what we talked about earlier, right? That impulse, right? We want to have that, right? That impulse or that belief, like why, I can, or what, poor little me, or whatever. So we buy the sweater and we don't really have the money for the sweater, and we haven't gotten rid of the 3 things that are already in our closet that you said to do in the beginning, which is great. That's another beautiful hack. So if we, and so now you're sitting here with this sweater, you kind of forgot about the debt. Like in that moment, you forgot about it. Right. And it's like afterwards, and you come home and you have the remorse that you're like, oh, I really should. Why did I buy that sweater? Or my bill came in. Oh my gosh, and then you go through all of those those pieces. But if it's visually there, it's like this little reminder. And I think the difference is it shouldn't be a reminder that's negative, right? It's not like, oh, look at you, you know, you have all that debt. It's more like, hey, look at what I'm doing. This is awesomeness. Like, you know, right? Wow, I love those two pieces. I love those two pieces of information. But the other one is a little morbid, but it does make you want to almost sit down and write. I hate to say it, like write your obituary so that you can live it, right? Like
Right.
write it the way you would want to be remembered, and in a way, and then start to live it, actually live it. Yeah, I love that. I love that a lot. You've shared a lot with our audience tonight. All these like little nuggets about that you've given us. I can't even summarize them all. I'm trying to think because from the beginning we had so many. And I know people can find you here on Instagram. So your handle is the Love Money. Is it Love Money Journal?
Journal, and then I have a website there's the downloadable book, and there's some blog, and then if through Google, there's lots of other people can see my older content and my other avenues. So yeah,
that'll be great. That'll be great. And I love that the Love Money Journal is something they can just hop on. It's free right now, right? And then do you have, does that also have a downloadable? Is there something in your bio there, or no? I'm just asking for clarification. Or is that on your website?
Well, I think on my bio, there's a linked tree that you can go through and get to those sites.
Oh, okay, perfect.
I believe so. Yeah. Okay. And if it doesn't work, let me know. Right? I
know. I changed my link tree the other day, and I changed it on Linktree, but not in Kajabi, like where I post everything. It's like so funny. So like none of it changed, but I thought it did. So it was quite funny. So anyway, that's an aside. So Sarah, this has been so amazing to talk to you about like really your journey, which is absolutely remarkable, and how you overcame this really life-changing, life-altering event, and how that shifted into this incredible positive mindset, and how you're applying that to money. I think that's just an incredible story, because like I said in the beginning, I feel like I don't want to say just women, but I feel like women in general have this very much, like you said, the gatherer, and a lot of scarcity energy around money, and a lot of beliefs around money, a lot of beliefs that aren't always serving us. And that really, when you just look at it as, I think you said it earlier, something like it just entered, like money is meant to enjoy, like to create things in your life that you'll enjoy, right? That's, and it's not really much more than that.
Right. And to invest. And as women, so many times, I think we're kind of raised to be more, budgeters, when our male counterparts will be raised to be more courageous in investing. And so if you can set aside money that you can invest for the long term, and there's a lot of opportunity to grow and snowball those funds for your future. Yeah. So it makes sense, kind of short, medium, and long-term goals. So yeah. I could go on and on about this.
No, I love it. I think that, you know what? Go ahead. Go for a little while. I'll let you go for it. We have another minute or two we could go. So go ahead.
Yeah. So I just, I really want to encourage women to plug in and participate in your retirement plan. I challenge to increase your contribution and see if you even notice it to your retirement plan. If you can, when people will ask me, what's the perfect rate of savings, and they get surprised when I first tell them that ideally I think people should strive to save about 15% for retirement and 15% for non-retirement. So 15% to save for that vacation you want to take, save for it ahead of time, 15% for your kids' education, or buying a new house. And when I've said that, and many times people that, their eyes pop up like 30%, like no way. And I'm like, well, that's just what I'm I'm recommending, and then it's amazing. Within a year or two, probably 9 times out of 10, those people come back and they're at that 30%. And then they get traction, right? Then suddenly they're not having to respond to the credit card bill when it comes in and trying to figure out how to pay for it. Instead, it's like, yeah, the vacation was paid for before I left. Or it's so empowering and so confident. And it's really neat now that I've been doing it so long. I've seen just people do amazing things, and it's just been so fun to be part of the journey, and I'm still so passionate about it because I feel like I have so much to share.
Yeah, and you definitely do. I can tell. You definitely do. We may have to do another live, I think. I
hope you'll come and do a live with me on my channel now that you've
taught you
in tech, right, Anna?
Instagram, like I said, for anybody who joined a little bit later, literally Sarah learned about doing an Instagram live 30 seconds before we went on. Like literally, we hung up the phone and we got on, and that was it. So bravo. And see, if you can do that, we can save a little bit of money each month, right? Or each week or each day. I love the idea of a day too, though. That's kind of cool, because sometimes in the week you get lost, like, oh, I'll put an extra, if it's $10, let's say, I'll put an extra 10 in next week, I'll put 20 in. And then next thing you know, it's 40, 50, 60, right? Instead of instead of like doing it every day and getting into the momentum of every day or something like that. That's kind of cool. I like that. And the mirror or the sticky note with the what you owe, I think is incredible too. So it's all been incredible, actually, all of it. So we are going to have to hop off at some point here, but I want everybody to know that you can reach Sarah right through Instagram. So at Love Money Journal, that is her handle on Instagram, and you can reach out to her anywhere through that, because you can always send her a message. And if you do, and not that I'm not getting any kind of kickback, it's just like you can just say, oh, I was watching you on Anna's thing, so she'll know where you kind of are oriented from and where you were coming from. But other than that, this has been terrific, and I think I'm going to really encourage anybody who's on now and anybody who listens in the future to really go and look at that downloadable book. And is it a workbook too, or is there like or a book, and just get some financial information?
It's a simple exercise of helping to get clear on your goals. It's one of those, it's meant so it then can be postable. My book isn't coming out until April 1st. So
okay, so
be doing some webinars before that. And then also my personal Instagram is Sarah Carlson CFP. So people can reach out to me that way as well. So
all right. Well, Sarah, this was fabulous, and I know I'll connect with you again a little bit later, either tonight or tomorrow. But I'm so glad that first of all, I'm so glad this worked. Second of all, thank you so much for coming on. This was amazing. I'm going to use a lot of your little hacks because they were great, and I think we may connect again.
Anna, thank you so much for having me, and I love what you're doing. Thank you for making such a positive impact in so many people's lives.
I'm really having a lot of fun doing this, and just sharing the wealth and the joy and like love with everybody. I'm just kind of loving on all of this, because it's so much fun to share and get people's messages out there, and hope that we can make a small impact in the world, if not a big one. So thank you, Sarah. Have a great night. Or a great day. You're in California. You still have some time, right?
Yeah. I'm in Washington State.
Yeah. Oh, Washington State. I knew you were on the West Coast. I couldn't remember exactly where. Have a good time. Bye.